Okay, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started. We have a good group of people here, some familiar names, some new names. My name is Kate Steimer, and I'm part of the content management team here at Voters. I'm going to take you through this training today for the WebLNX editor. I have gone ahead and muted everyone, but there will be a chance to ask questions at the end of the training. And we are going to be recording this video, so it will be available to watch again soon if you'd like. And we also have a full PDF of instructions about the WebLNX editor that we'll be sending out to everyone with your login and password soon, so you don't have to take notes throughout unless you really are feeling the need to. So I think I'm going to go ahead and dive right in to the product here. So what is WebLNX? WebLNX is a web-based editorial tool that combines all of Voters' content with listings and text in a simple yet structured environment. We don't have any more Word documents and no more daylight assignments for these books. Everything is here in one place, and that one place is accessed via the web. We'll send you the link to log in. It's going to be very similar to this one, but without the word test in it. I am going to be doing this training on a test environment, so I don't do anything strange to somebody's real content. You will get your login and your password. You'll just enter them on this main screen. Click log in. It will take you to this dashboard page. And the one area you want to focus on this page is under this assignments pane. Under the assignments, you'll typically see one item for each of the chapters you're working on. The due date may or may not line up with what your editor has given you. Please always defer to what your editor is said for the due date. We're working on syncing that up more closely. And to open your chapter or your assignment, you would just click once on that and then once on the open button. So that is going to open up this task details page, which includes a preview of the last published content. Note that this preview is not going to update as you work on the chapter. And to open up your chapter for working on it, you want to click on this menu icon in the top right corner, select Edit. At this point, you'll definitely have a little bit of a pause as Java gets running. You may get a prompt to ask to run Java. Is it okay to run Java? You want to say yes. If it asks you to update Java, always try to do that later and see if it'll run with the current version. So I'm going to go ahead and click Run. And this may take up to a few moments the very first time you open the document, but in future openings, when you open it in the future, it should be a little bit faster than that. And okay, so here is the chapter. For this test, I'm going to use Zurich, which is a city chapter. So there may be lots of things here that are familiar. We have our toolbar up top here with some very familiar looking items, save and some cut, copy, paste items, as well as some newer items that may be less familiar to you that I'll get into in a minute. One of them that is really important is this tag icon. You can use that to change the display of the chapter here in terms of what tags are displayed. The default view is full tags. And these tags that you see here, this where it says title and title again, chapter, and so forth and so on, these are very important for the style and the structure of our content. We have not really changed the rules about what content can go where. It's just these tags make that visible in a way it wasn't before and help us to, stick to those guidelines throughout the editing process. So these are the XML tags, and to change the different views for the tags, you can use this icon of these little yellow tags. Full tags is the default, as I was saying. No tags can also be a nice way to view your document. There are a couple other options, but I think those two are the most popular. Another way to get used to the structure of the document and the tags is if you look at, as you move through the chapter, you can see these little breadcrumbs that show the content, show the tag set you're in and how it relates to other pieces in the assignment. Typically the largest item on, moving from the largest piece of the largest container down into the very specific level you're in. So here I'm in the middle of a P or paragraph, you can see that, and it goes all the way up, moving larger and larger to the chapter level. So those are the breadcrumbs, which are another helpful way to see the structure in addition to the tags. Another way to change the view is under this Styles tag. And under Styles, the default is Edit View. Another one you might want to use is Print Book View, which is going to take away any omit content. It's going to not, by takeaway I should say, it's not going to show any omit content. It's not going to show any web-only content. It's also not going to show title alts. So I'm going to go back to the edit view, and you can see these title alts, which are the same here for Zurich, but it may be more different when you have an article, or the title may be a little more SEO or web friendly. So of the styles, there's a couple different ones to explore, but the edit view and the print book view, I think, are the most common ones. So moving, into the main chapter here, there's two main types of content. Some of the content lives directly in the chapter, and other content is referenced from within the chapter. So content that lives directly in the chapter is non-reference content. And a good example of this is this overview paragraph. So this non-reference content, if you wanted to make changes to the text, all you would do is go ahead and just start typing. So if you wanted to change the 13 to 14, you would just, start typing, and you would see track changes appear, using some very common conventions, with the strike through on stuff you have deleted and the underline, stuff you've added, both in a different font color to sort of highlight it, that it's changed. As an updater, track changes will be on when you get your assignment, and it will stay on. You won't have the ability to turn it on and off. Okay, just 1 second here, sorry. Okay, so track changes will be on. You'll see it, and once you start making changes, it's always a good idea to save often. You can save using Control-S or using the little save icon up here in the menu bar. There is an auto-save feature, but it's always good to be safe and save your changes frequently when in doubt. If you wanted to move content by copying and pasting, you could use the common keyboard shortcuts of Control and C, etc., or Command if you're on a Mac, or you can use these icons up here. So if you wanted to select a piece of text, cut it, move it somewhere else, paste it, okay. Some reasons we're on the test environment, so there are some things that are a little bit different. And actually, this is a really good example of something you may encounter. If you are trying to make changes to either a chapter or a piece of reference content, and it's not responding in the way you expect if you're just not getting any response. You want to look for a little icon next to your content name. If you see a little locked icon, what you want to do is right-click within the chapter, and you'll get a couple options. One of those will be will say check out. You can select check out, and then you should be able to continue with editing your chapter. So I'm going to move on to some other common tasks. One of them might be adding new paragraphs. Just one moment while I get rid of some of this feedback. Okay, I think that's better. Okay, so if you wanted to add a new paragraph, you could hit return twice within an existing paragraph to get a new paragraph. If I could spell paragraph, that would help. So again, that was just hitting return really quickly twice to get your new paragraph. Another way to add a new paragraph is to use one of these items up here. The Add Fragment menu has a bunch of things, paragraph size and smaller. So if you try to enter a paragraph, at some places within the tags it won't let you, and you may get this window. If you ever get this window, the best thing to do is just hit cancel and to try to add your content at a different point in the paragraph. So when I was trying to add it before, it was within an existing paragraph, but for this time I'm going to try to move my cursor between two existing paragraphs. So instead of having my cursor vertical, it's horizontal, and I'm going to go ahead and add a paragraph. And here again is another new paragraph. So inside that add fragment is also where you would see some of this lots of other little things in here, smaller than a paragraph. This is also where you would add a URL if you're adding a website within non-referenced text. Okay, so I am going to go ahead quick and take a step back and go through the logout process one more time to try to find actually a better example to work on here. But it'll be a good reminder to take you through those steps. So if you were finished for the day, what you would do is you would make sure your content is saved. You'd go up here to this little icon in the upper right-hand corner, click Return to Task. Hopefully all your changes have saved. Again, because this is a test environment, I am getting slightly different behavior than you would be getting. Typically, you would have saved all your changes, so you wouldn't get that notice. You'd come back here to this Task Details pane and then select Log Out for the day. So then when you come back in for your next section, you would just log back in. Okay, so now I'm going to use this other chapter for example. So again, when you log in, you want to go to your assignments pane, select your chapter, click the open button. For this example, there isn't a preview, but that's fine. It doesn't mean the chapter isn't there. I'm going to go ahead and go into the editing the chapter. We can take a closer look at it. So this little icon in the upper right-hand corner is definitely going to be key to getting started. And sometimes in these demonstrations, some of the meeting boxes can be over this little icon. So just make sure you can find him when you're ready. So here's another task chapter. Here's the neighborhood chapter for Continue Chelsea, Knightsbridge, and Belgravia. That's a mouthful in London. So again, going back to the two different types of content, there is the Non-reference content, that's the content that lives directly in the chapter, and that content you can edit directly in here. Here are my edits. Here they are. So you're going to see, for this example, because it's a slightly different level of text, the track changes may have a different color, but it's always going to follow that same behavior of straight through and underline in a different color than the text it's within. Another common thing that you might want to do in text is adding italics or bold, and that's a little bit different than some of the word-like editors. You would select a piece of text, and then you would use one of these icons to add the bold tags around both sides of the content. And if you wanted to remove those tags, you would simply put your cursor inside the tags and select this red X. So it's a little bit different than word editors, but I think it's hopefully this red X is a reminder how to get rid of it. So here's some existing text that's bold. If I wanted to take away the bold, I would click within there, and again, just select the red X. It's going to make it Roman and take the tags away really nicely. Another item up here in the menus you might use would be adding special characters with this omega. If you click on that icon, you will see a variety of special characters. You would just select the one that you want and hit insert, and you can see there's my little accented E. You can also copy and paste in from other programs or another web browser, anywhere from your clipboard. And if you need another special character that's not on this list of items, just let us know and we can expand this list. So again, you would just select the character you want, click insert. There are my little E's and my big E's. So this overview text is a great example of non-reference content that's directly within the chapter. Another type of content is, the other type of content is referenced or modular content, and there are two types of reference content. One of them is articles, which were known commonly as features or sidebars, as boxes, anything from a word-of-mouth box to as big as, a spotlight. The listings are the other one that's also modular, and the listings are also our records or our POIs or our properties. So again, the articles and the listings are reference content, which means that there is a pointer to them from within this chapter. So I'm just scrolling here and here's a great example of some reference content that is an article. And you'll know it's reference content in a few different ways. First of all, it has a light gray background. It's a little subtle, but you should be able to see, it may be more obvious in your screen when you're logging on directly into the system, that there is a light gray background behind this boxed article, as well as a light gray background behind this listing below. You'll also see that there is either an edit article or an edit listing link. And one of my favorite ways to tell you that it's reference content is if you just try to type within it. Here I'm entering some things on my keyboard. It's going to give you a little reminder to use the edit reference link. So if I try to type within either a listing or an article, I'm going to get that little reminder. Then I would look up to the top of the little section and click on the edit article or edit listing link and open it up in another window. Here's a great example of a lot of italic and bold. Wow. Okay, so if you wanted to make changes within this text, you would just go ahead then and start typing. And again, if you are typing and nothing is happening, you should look for this little lock icon, and you would right-click, select Check Out. The little lock icon is going to change to a pencil and paper, and then you can go ahead and make your changes like that. So when you open this reference content, it's going to open up in a separate tab. You You could do your work on it, you know, cut, copy, paste, everything, you know, the same as the other content, you know, insert special characters, bold, italic, all those familiar things. And when you're finished, you would save, and then you would X out of this tab. You can have multiple tabs open, but you want to be careful that you have everything saved and are just keeping track of what you're working on. So it's helpful not to have too many things open unless it's very intentional. So again, if you wanted to edit this text, if you tried typing in it, it would give you a little reminder. You would look for the link. Another way that you will probably get more comfortable with as you start working is you can simply double click within this reference content. So you would just double click, it's going to open it up, and it's going to keep your cursor at the same point where you clicked from within the chapter. So that is a good example of an article. Here is, and what's nice about this reference content is when you make your changes within the article or the listing, you will see them in the body of the chapter, and that's because they've been saved nicely. And so moving on from an article, I'm going to go into the listing. So again, it has the light gray background. You can't, when you try to type on it, you're going to get this little reminder to use the edit listing button. Use edit listing. I'm going to open up our form, which looks really great, which may be kind of familiar to some of you who've worked in the daylight system, but it's definitely improved. Again, if you have the little lock icon, you're going to right click, select checkout. Lock's going to change to pencil and paper, and you can go ahead and start making your changes within the form. Within the form, you will want to, you can just see your changes within the review text like normal. As you're making your changes, you'll want to use the save up here at the top or Control S. And when you're completely finished with the form and finished updating the listing, you'll want to select Ready for Editor. But I'm going to wait and do my pretend changes here before I do that. Take you through some of the form. Throughout, you'll see some notes to guide you. So for example, here's inclusion, which is slightly new, but somewhat familiar. And the little guide is in which publication should this listing appear. The default is all, so it would appear, you know, in everything: print, digital, ebooks, apps, everything, the web. We also have web only, print only, optional for print, not used as frequently, and then the various omit reasons are combined. The various omit condition is combined with its reason. So there's the, you know, omit closed permanently, omit no longer suitable, or some of the more frequently used items. So I'm just going to say that this is one of the omit reasons. Go through some of the common items here you might be updating. So here's a comment, which comments are intended to live between editions. Here's your address information. Note that for the address, it's once you get past the street address and directions, the fields for country, state, and city and neighborhood are largest to smallest. So you have to make your choice for the top for the country in order to get your choices for the states and so forth, going down the levels. We have our geocoder tool hooked up here. I won't get into him today, but that's how the latitude and longitude information is. That's the source for the latitude and longitude data. If you wanted to start making changes to these fields, the track changes operates a little bit differently. You would need to turn on what we call this review pane through the icon here to see all the changes in the form outside of the review text. And this is going to show me the changes in the review text as well as the changes in the other fields throughout the form. So if you added a new field, here's new phone text, added new information, you would start to see that information show up on the right-hand panel. below the service information, we have our keywords, which are nice and broken out and hopefully really easy to use. There's a couple different types. There's two different types of keywords. One is the multi-select, which is what these examples are, where you can select multiple items here. And again, this is a test environment, so visually the alignment is a little bit off on some of these, but hopefully it'll look better in the version that you'll be logging into very soon. So you would just use these checkboxes to check and uncheck the changes that you wanted to make. And you may, depending on the class of the item, you may have a keyword that has a drop-down. This example doesn't have one, but a drop-down would look like this, where you have a limited number of options, and you would select your one keyword as opposed to your multiple keywords. Moving on down in the form, we have our last visit or fact check information. It's very important for us to track whether something has gotten a site visit or a fact check. So this is one of the required fields, and you'll see all the required fields are marked with a little red asterisk. So you would update, when you fact check this information, point of contact at the property, and here's another little guide that this is for, photos editors, not for travelers, to differentiate it from the contact information up above in the service information. So those are all the changes I'm going to make to the Science Museum for now. I'm going to save. I'm going to select Ready for Editor, which you can do at the very top or at the very bottom of the form. And it's saying that I need to enter the point of contact email because that's a required field. So I'm going to go in here and do email at something.com. You would enter a more legitimate email address than that, I'm sure. So again, I'm going to save, click Ready for Editor, and close, and ask me to save again. That's fine. Okay, so you'll see a couple different things going on here back in the chapter. So you'll see, first of all, that I changed this to omit, so it has the light blue background. The omit and web colors are the same as before, so some of you may be familiar with the blue for the omit and the yellow for web only. You'll see that the changes I made within both the review text and the service information is shown here in track changes, which is really nice to see that preview of the reference content. And you'll also see that this bar that was formerly had this red solid bar and please update listing now says green and ready for editor. So when you first get your assignment, all of your listings will have the solid red bar and please update listing. When you're finished going through all of your listings, you'll know that you're done with that part of the assignment because they all have the green bar and the ready for editor. There's also an interim state between the two where you've started work on a listing, and I'll show you that with Holland Park. So again, if I try to type on it, give me the little reminder, click Edit Listing, open up Holland Park. I can see he's locked, so I'm going to right-click and check out. So if I made, some changes in here, make some changes, hit save. I'm not going to select Ready for Editor. I'm going to X out, go back here. You can see it has the solid red line is turned into a dashed red line and says saved but not ready for editor. So the three different values are the three different states for listing are the red, solid red, please update listing, then dashed red, saved but not ready for editor, and the green with ready for editor. And again, with the background colors, this blue is because it has the omit inclusion value. This yellow is because it has a web-only inclusion value. And again, there's the light gray background on the reference content. So it might seem like a lot of colors at first, but hopefully it's something that'll be very familiar to you soon, if it's not already. What else about listings is common? If you wanted to add a listing, you would position your cursor commonly between two existing listings. So here I can tell my cursor is between these two listings because it's horizontal, and you would use this add listing icon and choose the appropriate class. So I'm going to add a new site, and here's my new listing form. So you would just work through the form, you know, filling out the various fields, entering the information. As I said, with country, you would have to enter the appropriate country to get the choices below it, and if you don't see the appropriate state or province for the geography you're working on, you should choose the undefined value for now. We're working on cleaning this up. You'll get a little more guidance on that from your editor. And then you have to make a choice to get down and choose, you know, the next options. Going on down the form, let me see. I think those are the basics of the form. You know, the keywords being, again, these ones are all multi-select. Last visit or fact check is very important. Those are some of the most important things about the form. I'm going to go ahead and save this guy and close him. So here's my new listing, and there isn't a lot of other information appearing here in the preview because I didn't enter much in there. And what's nice about this preview also is that in addition to the review text and the service information, it also shows some of this metadata information, including you can see the inclusion value, keywords that are assigned to it, etc. And also, speaking of listings, that it is intentional. You will see in most of your listings that the name appears twice, and that is just a temporary thing about this current system. That's not an error, so you can sort of disregard that the name will always appear twice, once in brackets. So that's adding a listing. Again, if you wanted to add a listing, you would position your cursor between two listings. So it's lying down, click Add Listing, add your listing. I'm going to go back, close this guy without making any changes. If I wanted to delete a listing, in essence what you want to do is actually change the inclusion value instead of deleting it. So I'm going to open this one up by double clicking, and I'm going to change the inclusion value to one of the omits. Here again it's locked, so I'm going to right click, check out, select one of my omit reasons, save. Okay. You would fill in your various required information, close the listing. When you come back to your chapter, you would see that it is omitted content. Something else you might want to do outside of listings is adding queries, and we're asking people to put all queries directly within the chapter, whether it has to do with reference content or not, because that is the easiest way to see queries about listings as well right now, if it's within the body of the chapter, and I'll show you one of the reasons why for that in a moment. So if you wanted to add, I'm going to go back to my overview text. If you wanted to add a query, you could use these two icons. This one on the left is comments that does not have the question mark in it, and the one on the right is queries. And comments are only added by editors, and again, they're intended to live between editions. So as updaters, you would be adding queries and also, responding to queries that you might have from your editor. So I'm going to go ahead and add a query. So here is my query, and for example purposes, I'm going to also add a comment here, just so you can see the difference between them. Here is a comment. So comments and queries are similar in that they both use the same comment tags, but they're different in that the colors are different and the wording preceding the tags clarifies which one is which. So here's a query. It's bright green, and it has the status of open. Queries can either be open or closed, and a query is something that should be resolved within one edition. Here's a comment. It's got the bright yellow, just the word comment, and that's something that should live on between editions. A good example of a comment would be if something has an odd spelling, you could put a comment that says, you know, this spelling is correct, you know, to avoid having a copy editor or everybody who looks at it question it every time they see it and ask, is this really the correct spelling? So that's a great example of a comment, the difference between a comment and a query. You can also use the Find Next and Find Previous in these icons to navigate to other queries and comments. So here's another one. Let's see if that's it for the queries. You could do Find Previous Comment, you know, and just keep on moving out throughout the content that way. You can also navigate among the comments and queries using the View Queries and View Comments styles views. So here in View Queries, here's just the one query that's in the chapter. If I change this to View Comments, here are the comments. And what's nice is if you put your cursor on any one of these different queries or comments and then change the view back to my favorite, the Edit view, your cursor will stay on that comment or query. So that's a really helpful way to sort of navigate between different items, make sure all the notes from your editor have been resolved before you send it back. What else for queries? I think that's it for comments and queries and the different views. Another view tip that I was asked about recently was about changing the size of the font. You can use these icons to make things larger on your screen to a level that works for you, or to make them smaller. So that's really nice, and that's just changing the view. It's not changing, you know, what we're storing for the content in terms of how something should appear in the book or the webs or the various different places. So once you're through making all your changes for the entire assignment, you would make sure you save everything, and then you would go back to this icon in the upper right here, and you would click Return to Task. Actually, before I do it, I want to show you one other thing. This little help icon here is really great. This is going to be very similar content to what we're going to be sending for the PDF of the instructions with your login. And what's nice about this version is that you can really easily search. So if you're trying to remember, oh, what was it that was weird about italic, you could just search for italic. Here's the first result, and this is going to take you through, you know, the steps to apply the emphasis, remove the emphasis, with lots of helpful screenshots throughout. So that's the help. You can access via this little icon here in the upper right-hand corner. And when you're done with the assignment completely, you want to save up here to your menu icon, click Return to Task. That will take you to the Task Details pane. And to send your chapter back to your editor, you would click on this Workflow button. It's going to be below the preview, way down near the bottom of the screen. And the option you will have here will be only one. It will be Return Assignment to Editor. For this example, I'm going to just select Submit PE, but yours will say the different thing, and you would see the name of your editor. You would select your editor. Here I'm selecting myself. You would click on Complete Task once, and that will send the assignment back to your editor. You'll get a little confirmation window that says it was sent back, and you'll know that it was completed successfully because back on your dashboard page here under Assignments, your assignment will no longer be appearing under the Assignments pane. And again, I didn't click through that because I want to keep this chapter here as a sample to play around with, but to take you through those steps sort of one more time quickly. Here's your chapter from this dashboard page, open to get into the task details page. If you're ready to send it back, under workflow, you would have the option to return assignment to editor, select their name from the drop-down, and complete task. So that is the basics of WebLNX. I'm going to go back into the editor and open things up for questions here in just a moment. And just if you have questions in general as you're working on your assignment, you can always send them to the writersupport@photors.com email, and always copy your editor just so they're in the loop on what's going on. If you have any destination-specific questions, you can send them directly to your editor.